Welcome back to our daily show. Here's CJ.
Have a lot of fun, putting trouble on the run. Man, you find the old and young, twisting the night away. Yeah, twisting, everybody's feeling great.
Oh, welcome back. 9:15 is the time on the second day of February. Pastor Joe Banks, Abundant Church.
What's
Super
going on,
Sunday.
CJ? Thanks for having me today.
Oh man, I'm excited. We were talking the other day about Super Sunday. What was wild is I had just added it to our community calendar and saw that you guys did and went, oh, they beat me to it. And then all the people that are really wanting to be a part of this, and it's such a great event. Really, where you aren't out in the bar or anything like that. You can be around fellowship, your family, and just enjoy some great activities and fun.
Yeah, really to set up what Super Sunday is all about is, something really unique and really special is happening at our church, at Abundant Church, for a church that is really well established in the community.
Oh, yeah.
It started 110 years ago.
Hasn't really been that long.
1913 is when Abundant Church started. It's gone through some different name changes, but same group of people all throughout that time. We still have some people that were there on our history wall and things like that. They're still in the congregation. It's really cool to see. Wow. They were like babies and children then. But, what's been really cool is over the last 2 years, a church that is well established like that, it's been really cool to see the uniqueness that the baton has been handed really to the next generation, And so, myself, I got a young family, 3 kids. I'm in my mid 30s. Our executive pastor has a young family, mid 30s. We just brought in all new staff that are next generation, one from Alaska, one from Dallas, Texas, our kids pastor. And so really it's cool to see that baton handed and people are responding.
Well, and that's a common concern for a lot of parishes and a lot of organizations in general is who's going to take the reins for that next generation. And especially when you have such a storied history in a community. I mean, that's a pretty tall responsibility, but it seems like all of you have really adapted and ran with it.
Yeah, it can be really difficult for a church to get set in their tradition, in their ways, in their preferences, how they like things. But it's been unique and special to see that baton handed, and people are responding. We've grown by 150 people in just the last 5 months, and it's mostly young families, young adults, millennials, and it's super cool to see what's happening.
What do you accredit that to?
I see that a lot where a lot of churches, I'd say a lot of them are a lot like Shivers ice cream, right? And that means every church has its own flavor. Everyone likes their own flavor type of deal. And so there's a lot to choose from. There's a lot to pick from. And especially even the road that we're on in Humbert, it's almost like a car dealership for churches, right?
That's
there's like
true.
17 different churches there.
True.
So it's like, how do people figure out, what church they want to go to? And on the other hand, churches are a lot like dentist's office, where I feel like inwardly people understand I should probably go. Yeah. I know it would be good for me, but there's apprehension. And when I actually go, am I going to be drilled? You know what I mean? Is something going to happen?
No, that's true, yeah.
And so what I really attribute it to, first and foremost, I think it's a spiritual thing. I think God is drawing people in for sure. But I also believe that there's a lot of instability in our country. There's a lot of instability just in our land, even hearing the news today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people are looking for stability. And a lot of that has to do with truth. You know what I mean? That in a sea of misinformation and people not really knowing what to believe, that when they hear truth that's presented in a loving way, they're responding to it. But then at the same time, young families don't want to be isolated. You know what I mean? It's hard to go through life with a young family alone. And so they're seeing all these young families come to our church and they're starting to establish roots together and they're doing things together. And it's been really special and unique.
Well, that's a huge point too. I mean, there's so many times where someone young, maybe in their 20s, starts a family and their friends are still out having a good old time. But, we can't just hang around them all the time. We got kids, How do we build our village that's, a supportive one for our child, for us, and then, of course, our faith. And it seems like at Abundant, you've checked all 3 boxes.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so what we're really wanting to do with Super Sunday is we're wanting to show the community in a way, and also because churches can be like a dentist office where there's a lot of apprehension. I don't know what I'm getting into and what's going to happen. We want to disarm it as much as possible with just a fun thing, you know what I mean? Where families can be excited. Hey, they're just doing some Super Bowl fun stuff. You know what I mean? A dad's like, I can can go win a Blackstone grill or a big TV,
Right.
you know, and really disarm people to what can bring a lot of apprehension and allow them to come in and experience what's going on at our church.
Well, that's such a big thing too, because I think so many times, and as someone that still goes to St. Mary's, and not as much as I need to or want to, but there's always that apprehension of what am I going to be sold, and that's kind of for a common everyday person that's not used to practicing faith or is kind of apprehensive about it, to have something where you can let your hair down, you aren't going to be pestered, you can just go enjoy, win a grill, win some TVs, let your kids have fun. There's no stress in that.
Yeah, I mean, we try to be as close to what Jesus actually designed for the church to be. Throughout history, throughout time, we can really change things the way that they were meant to be.
For sure.
And when you really study the New Testament and see what Jesus wanted the church to be built on, which was the confession that he is the Messiah, he is the Savior, and then everything else that comes together, we try to be as close to what that really looks like. And Jesus was a lot of fun. You know what I mean? He told a lot of jokes. He had a good time, and he had a lot of friends that he brought in close to him. But he also gave people purpose. And a time where we live, I believe if people can find their purpose, their God-given purpose, it unlocks a whole new level of fulfillment that they're looking for everywhere else.
I've said it time. That's 100%. I've said it on the soapbox day after day. Is that's the biggest issue? Is it's not really we're bad people. It's just there's not a lot of purpose in a lot of our lives, and once you find it, whether or not it's in faith, whether or not it's in that job that you've been praying for, or just trying to figure out your way in life, once you find it, it seems like it's a night and day shift.
Yeah, it really unlocks a whole lot. And so we have specific programs that we do to help people do that. And we're very, we say a lot of things like, because of Jesus, we are family, but we actually have a way to make that happen for people so they're not falling through the cracks. And so what we really like also is leveraging technology like you're doing here with the show,
right.
And so what we do is understanding that people have apprehension before they walk in the doors physically. We give them an opportunity to be in the building digitally, right?
Yeah.
And that's just our website. That's what we call the digital front door, that you can get on abundant.church anytime you want. You get to see what kind of worship we do. It's very lively, exciting, passionate, you know what I mean? You get to see the type of preaching that I do. I believe in verse by verse. We just preach the word of God. It's not a lot of like self-help stuff like 10 steps to the better you. No, it's like we preach what Jesus said and we try to apply it to our lives. And so you can really get a lot of answers by watching us online. That will take away some of that apprehension as well.
Another question I have for you, just as we're talking about this, a lot of times it seems like it's not really apprehension to the faith. It's apprehension of being involved in a loving group.
Yeah.
It's receiving the love and the time. But do you see that in a lot of in some of your instances where maybe if someone comes in and they go, hey, this is wonderful, but it's scary to kind of feel the embrace of a group at times for people.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And even more in the digital age where people are getting less and less connected face-to-face like we are, and they control their conversations through text messaging where they can respond when they want. They can edit what they say before they hit send, It's only increased that social anxiety that people have. But what we understand is that's actually an incredible way for people to really grow through that and understand that there is an enemy, there is an adversary, there is spiritual darkness, and they want us to be isolated and alone. And so the way we build systems for people to get connected, you know what I mean? And they're just not trying to find their own way.
Right.
But when they walk in our doors physically, we have a lot of processes that help them get connected to take away some of that anxiety that comes with it.
Absolutely. And as we're talking Super Sunday, which is your opportunity, if you haven't been in the doors yet or been able to knock on that digital front door, you can step on in a different setting and just have some really great experiences. Now, take me through how this is set up. We have a service at 9 and then a service at 11, correct?
Yeah, and the idea behind it is we do 2 services on a Sunday morning. They're identical services, right? Identical worship, identical preaching, and things like that. So it's just because we're a larger church, we need 2 services. That's really the
a good problem to have
behind that. Absolutely. And so what we want to do is, in disarming that apprehension, we're just creating some fun stuff around our services. So we're not trying to hoodwink people of come to Super Sunday and you get caught by a message from Jesus. You know what I mean? No, it's like, no, it's you're going, we have services, and we're not changing what that looks like. We're not trying to trick anybody what Super Sunday is. We're very open, honest, and transparent. We're just trying to help people find an easier way to jump into and just see what's going on and break that digital wall come physically, you know?
Yeah.
And so what that's going to look like is before and after each service, about a half hour before the 9 a.m., all the way after, in between our services, and then after the 11 a.m. We're just going to have a lot of football stuff, you know? There's going to be a fun, you know, blow up tunnel that you get to run through, and kids will enjoy that a lot. We'll be giving away a lot of tailgate food, hot dogs, pretzels, popcorn, for our kids specifically, because I got a 9-year-old son. He's all football all the time.
Is he really? Okay, I was going to ask you.
He's so excited about it. We got little, footballs that every kid's going to get, and they're going to be doing some NFL drills like in our kids' services, because we have services just for children, services just for adults, and so they'll be having their own fun experience during the 9 and 11 service, and we're doing some giveaways just for fun, a Blackstone Grill, TV.
Yeah, only a Blackstone Grill and a TV.
Yeah,
Nothing.
Nah. You got to have something to watch the big game later on in the day, right?
That's right.
And so we want to help with that, but then so the fun around the services, and then we want to invite people into the service and say, hey, you're here. Check it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Check out the live music, see what we're all about, and we hope that they like what they see.
And now, how long is that service?
We're usually about 75 minutes, so an hour and 15 minutes.
That's nice.
We really have about 3 or 4 songs of, there's some fun songs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's some slow songs, it's worship type of stuff. And then we do some announcements, hey, this is what's going on. And then I preach, you know what I mean? And I really believe in preaching the word of God, like I said. And then we have a prayer time at the end where if anyone wants prayer, you know what I mean, that we can pray for them. But yeah, it's about 75 minutes long.
Really cool. And on top of that, a great way to really bring the family together, too. I mean, just, it's not very often where you get those family-oriented events anymore. And I'm not picking on anybody because I manage the calendar. There's some great stuff. But just to be able to bring the family, do something fun where you can all wear your favorite team's jersey and go and explore your faith and win a grill, win a TV, but just enjoy the Sunday morning like it was meant to be enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, being married to a young mom myself, you know what I mean? She's always looking at RiverBender, like where's the young kid events that I can take my kids to, and so that's why we want it to be it's free. Yeah. We don't want to charge anyone for it. We're not hoodwinking anyone about it. No. It's just we're very clear, and we want people to have something they can go to that's safe for their kids, that's fun for their children, but it also speaks to adults too. It doesn't feel like a kid event. This is a family event where we feel like men will be reached, women will be reached, kids will be reached. Families will come together, and it's gonna be really cool.
Have you seen? And I want to keep talking. I just got to pay a quick bill. But before we do that, have you seen? Maybe a family that had a grandmother or grandfather that went to a different church, but maybe because they want their family to experience, their faith together, they start making that transition. Does that happen?
Oh, I've seen that in my 15 years of ministry. I've seen over and over and over again. Moms and dads and grandmas will follow where the youth and kids want to be. They do. They're like, my kids love it there, and that's where we're going to go. And so that's why we've gone all in on the next generation. We actually just launched what we're calling 100 Days of Faith, where we are going to pour about $250,000 or more in just updating our youth and kids areas, because we want them to be the best areas for our youth and children, to where they want to come in and they want to be a part of what's going on, and find, students need that connection even more, that like-minded people who are grounded in their faith that can hold each other well, and children as well.
Well, that's so important, because I've said it time and time again, this generation, and mine too, it's just we're looking at influencers. We see the person on social media or Snapchat that's posting they're in a private jet that's not theirs. They didn't even rent it. They were just a part of the fight, But we start living vicariously through those social media channels, and it gets people into a lot of trouble. And then you can have a community, a village around you that like-minded adults or young adults, teenagers that really have that same ideology and same philosophy on life even. That's a huge incentive.
Yeah, we make it really simple. We just call it Redwood Faith.
Gotcha.
And the idea behind Redwood Faith is the redwood trees out on the West Coast. They're the tallest, they're the biggest, they're like 500 to 700 years old on average. The oldest one that is still alive is 2,200 years old. So you'd think their roots must go incredibly deep to stay up, but they don't. their secret is how shallow and connected their roots are together. They grow close together so that when the winds come in, the storms come in, their roots that are intertwined together, quite literally, they hold each other down. And so that's the type of culture we're trying to create in our church, is where we grow roots that are connected to one another, that when hard things come in, we're holding each other down as we're weathering these storms culturally and in our world. And that's from our seniors all the way down to our kiddos, that we're trying to create that Redwood faith connection.
Absolutely. We got to take a quick break, but Dan Brannon did plant the first redwood tree. 9:30 is the time. 9:30 is the time. We'll take a quick pause and we'll come back, talk more about Super Sunday and Abundant Church. You can follow along online at abundant.church. That's abundant.church.
Since 1993, Sparks Junk Removal is always adapting to the needs of our clients. That is why we now offer weekly trash pickup for selected areas. Plus, we offer driveway-safe rubber-tired dumpster rental. Give us a call today at 618-781-1407 or visit us at sparksjunkremoval.net.
Macias Insurance Agency, providing quality products with extremely competitive prices. As an independent provider, we source multiple companies to offer the best rates possible, covering auto, home, business, and life insurance. Our goal is to provide quality service that meets and exceeds customer expectations. You can rest easy knowing the Macias team is working round the clock to ensure that both you and the most important parts of your life are covered. Our qualified professionals make the insurance process easy so you can live carefree and focus on what matters most. Visit MaciasInsuranceAgency.com today to find out what our team can do for you.
Not sure if you've noticed, but those advertised prices from the other dealers are just a bunch of blah, blah, blah. At Roberts Motors, the advertised price is the price you pay. And that, my friend, is great news for you. Don't fall for their so-called incentives that will leave you banging your head against the wall. Go with Roberts Motors. Prices you can trust and people you will like. That's the Roberts Motors way. And trust me, it's the way to go.
Has free checking become a thing of the past? Not if Liberty has anything to say about it. With 3 free personal checking options and even a free business checking account, free is alive and well at Liberty Bank, the local bank that gives you free checking choices and more cashing in your pocket. Bank locally, bank Liberty. For more information, visit www.bankliberty.com.
RiverBender Radio has built 3 great new stations just for you in the Riverbend. The Eagle, the Riverbend's classic rock station. The Bridge, hit music for the Riverbend. And The River, today's country, and all your favorites. Check them out today at RiverBender.com.
Welcome back to our daily show. Here's CJ. Oh, 9:33. Welcome back. Second day of February, Super Sunday. You see it on your screen on the 11th of February at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Those are the 2 services, but the fun doesn't stop there. 30 minutes before and after, you can have some really great activities for the kids, some chance to win some great prizes. Fill me in on this a little bit more. So you have some running exercises like NFL training camp stuff, correct?
Yeah, so a couple of different experiences. You know, there's experiences when you walk in, like through tunnels and tailgates and food and all of that when you come in. You know, it's kind of like the stadium type of feel.
Yeah.
And then when you get on the inside, we got some different experiences for, you know, one area for kids just to run some fun drills and catch some footballs and do some fun things like that. And then we got an area in our cafe space right at the front of our church. We're doing a field goal challenge. And so anyone can get up there and kick a field goal. And if they get it, they'll get a gift card. And so that'll be fun for them. And
have you tested it out?
Not yet. We're setting it up this week. But confident I'll be able to kick it. You know, I got to set the standard,
that's
set
the formula
for people to beat, you know. But then we just, you know, we want to create an irresistible experience as well. So we've ordered a whole bunch of, you know, green turf we're putting everywhere on our platform. Really cool. A lot of us are decked out in jerseys. And so that's going to be the experience that people have when it comes to some of those games and stuff like that.
I just love it. And now take me through your 15 years in ministry, because you are recently arrival at Abundant Church. What led you here?
Yeah, we got voted in by the membership body August of last year. So it's been just about 5 or 6 months for us here. And so our journey is really, I feel like, a nomad in a way, how the Lord's kind of taken us all over. I grew up in central Pennsylvania, where Penn State University is, Joe Paterno, Beaver Stadium, all of that. And left at 18 to go to college in Missouri in Springfield, Central Bible College, and got married there, and then started my ministry journey full time. I was in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas area for a little bit, and that was a beast of its own.
Yeah,
people really love their flag in Texas and their brisket, and so spent some time there. Then we actually came to this area. My wife and I, we were the youth pastors in Jerseyville for about 4 years. That's actually where my wife is from. Okay. So she grew up in Jerseyville, and so we spent about 4 years there, and then we started south. And so the Lord took us to right outside of Atlanta, Georgia for almost 8 years. And so did ministry there in different churches, and then eventually I was a state director over all the youth ministries in the state of Georgia, running their camps and running their conventions, and it was so much fun, because we really do love the next generation and believe in them. And then out of Georgia, we spent some time in Minnesota, and that was wild. We went from... Okay, yeah, you can't go from Georgia to negative 14 in the winter. And that was... We left the week after Christmas, right? Oh, no. We moved, and we went from 95 degrees in sunny Georgia, and we just kept going north and north on our drive, and when we arrived, the night we moved in, I'm not making this up, negative 30 degrees. Oh, my gosh. And it was like... Where did you bring us to? And so, but we loved it. Minnesota was awesome. They call it Minnesota nice up there, the people, and the warmth of the people made up for the coolness of the temperatures. You know what I mean? What I think's great, I don't know if you did that up there or saw someone, but I had soccer a bunch up in Minnesota and Wisconsin whenever I was traveling. Yeah. Those folks were in a hot tub and pouring snow into their hot tub. You know, like, get out of here. Oh, they're a whole different breed. You know, even for our kids when we send them to school. Yeah. You know, we're thinking 32 or below, you're staying inside. Right. You know what I mean? They're like, no, if it's 1 degree, your kids are going outside to play, you know, at recess during school and stuff. Oh, my goodness. They embrace their cold, that's for sure. And then, you know, so then after, 15 years of moving around, our heart that eventually, my wife and I felt called to lead a church, not just to be on staff, but to lead one. And the Lord gave us that opportunity here at Abundant Church, Abundant Life Church. And so it's been really exciting. It's kind of near my wife's hometown. So, Nana's right up the road for our kids. And so that brings us a little bit more grounding for stability for our family as well. And because of our time in Illinois about 10 years ago, we always knew that in our fellowship, Abundant Church is really well known in our fellowship, the Assemblies of God. And so the opportunity to lead it is truly incredible, and we couldn't be more excited. Well, and take me through the dynamics of, the relationship while you're leading the church, too, because I'm sure that there's so many benefits to that and really growing together while you're still, collaborating. I'm sure, leading the next generation and doing what you're doing the last couple of months. Have you seen that and noticed it? Yeah, it's been awesome to see. Some of the students that were in our youth ministry 10 years ago, they're grown up now. That's what I would, that's cool. And they've got kids now. And, nice. And this past Sunday, one of the couples, they just became members of our church. And so to see, the ministry that we had in the area 10 years ago, we're seeing some fruit of that now as well. And even adults that were part of our church are some of them are now coming down here too. And so that's been really cool. But then that also, because of the time that we spent in next generation ministry, we believe people are responding to that well here too, that it's not just about adults, but we've got to pass our faith on and the strength of it to our youth and to our children and strengthen the whole family, because the families are absolutely being broken down here in our country. There are more kids growing up without dads in our country than those who have a dad. And the reality is that's a challenge for kids. It just is. Yeah, it is. And so what we want to do is strengthen the families that still have dads, but then also be that family for those who don't have a dad, and that we're helping give them that stability in really an unstable world. Well, you're absolutely right. And I mean, you even take it a step further, some that are being raised by other relatives and never have had that mother or even met motherly connection too. And it's great to know that that's really what you guys are here for in a way, is to be that
person and to be that pillar that's desperately needed for that young child.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whenever you're going through your services, how important is it for you to kind of, understand the I don't want to say demographic, but the different generations that are in your church? Because I'm sure there's always a generational barrier somewhere when you're trying to get messaging out. Do you experience that, or at Abundant, is it such a tight-knit and such a seamless group that it doesn't really matter what generation we're talking to?
Yeah, there's no doubt. Every church is full of imperfect people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
sure.
And so we have our challenges, but the beauty behind our church, it is multi-generational.
Yeah.
We have a lot of seniors. We even do a senior service on Wednesday mornings at 10:30 that we actually kick it back. We do some hymns for them, testimonies, kind of old school.
Nice.
We feed them a lunch. And so, we love every generation.
Yeah.
And so the seniors also come on Sunday mornings as well. So what we're able to see is, because we have seniors, we got baby boomers, we got millennials, we got every generation in our church, but we're all pulling the same direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've tried to take, hey, this is not about our preference. This is about, we're on mission, and our mission is to help people know that there's a God who loves them, has given them a purpose in their life, and that they'll find more fulfillment in that than anything else that they'll put their faith in. And so when people have vision and they're all going the same way, there's not as much church drama and preference stuff that happens. But we're also, what's beautiful is not only multi-generational, we're diverse as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we see people of every ethnicity coming to our church and finding their place in that as well. And that's the beauty of the body of Christ. When you see every generation, you see multi-ethnic, you see all of that coming together, it really paints a beautiful picture of what heaven will look like, because people on every continent are worshiping God, you know what I mean? And worshiping the Lord. And I've been there. I've been to Africa over 10 times. I've been to the Middle East. I've been to South America. I've been all over the world. And those experiences, seeing people, hey, we're all singing the same songs. We're all preaching the same word. And that's where you really say, hey, we're part of something way bigger than just ourselves.
That, and I could only imagine whenever that realization hits you while you're traveling. I mean, that's got to be a beautiful thing in itself too.
Yeah. There's also just that reality that, I've seen some crazy things, you know what I mean? Absolutely crazy things that show us that there's a spiritual realm that's pushing back.
Absolutely. And just getting back to Super Sunday, which is the big Shabuzi coming up on February the 11th. How long did it take you guys to put this all together? Because this isn't your Mother's Sunday experience here,
There's no doubt. Just starting in August, there's a lot, with that 2-year transition, handing the baton over, then us coming in August. There's no doubt. Something that I'm very forward about, even to our church now, is, hey, we're building the plane as we fly it. You know what I mean? We're just like, we're going to get this sucker up and we're going to start flying it, but we don't have everything together. We're trying to build things along. And so really this is a pivot that Abundant Church used to do, what was called Family Fest. It was a big, huge circus type of thing. Not circus, but carnival.
Yeah, carnival, for sure,
all across our land and stuff. But, people had to pay to come to it. And we as a church, we would actually pay it down. We'd invest about $20,000 to $25,000 just to get the tickets lower. But we're bringing in, carnival people, and they want their cut. And so we invested a lot of money to have that event for our community, but I did not love the idea of people having to pay to come on our campus. Yeah. To me, that's just a little yuck for me, because I want people to be able to come and everything's free. You know what I mean? And so we're pivoting around that as well to say, hey, we want to do the same thought line of like community events, but they're free, but also we want people to at the same time experience what we're all about. You know what I mean? And so that's really how it all came together, and we're building it as we're flying, and we used to do this in Minnesota as well. So
so you're prepared.
We're kind of bringing what we did in Minnesota to Alton. That's for sure.
That's really cool. And as we're talking here, I just wanted to ask you a couple more questions on Super Sunday before we take a quick pause. You don't have to register or anything like that, because I know that those are always some frequently asked questions. Children of all ages, newborns even, if you have a newborn?
Yeah, we've got a great nursery, pre-K area. I've got a 9-month-old, so I get it. Our kids go in there, you know what I mean? Because we want people, when they come into the service, it's hard for me to be holding my little girl sitting in there, and I'm not getting anything out of the service because I'm managing my child. And so that's why we have background checked, trained professionals that are handling children, that you can feel confident and safe in that for sure. And It's going to be good.
One last question before we get back to the event. Out of all the years in different places you've been, what makes Abundant Church so special, Abundant Life?
Yeah, I think what it makes us special is we're not a funeral. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
So many churches you walk in, you're like, who died